All right, guys, I'm back to describe to you kind of the basic process that I use when I write lit reviews or simple research papers. I've been using this process since I was an undergraduate, which was more years ago than I want to admit. I've written, oh geez, in the hundreds probably of papers using this process, and it is by far the best process that works for me. So I'm going to tell you this process, and hopefully it will work for you as well. Okay. Step one: find all the sources that you're going to try to utilize for this project. Okay. I recorded an earlier video all about how to do that. But find those sources, print them out. You can do it where they're just, on a computer or something, but I vastly prefer having a hard copy in my hands. And then get highlighters and just start highlighting the passages you think you want to talk about in your paper. These should be relatively few and far between, right? Don't highlight everything. I've seen so many people who go through like textbooks and highlight everything. Just highlight the things you think you want to quote or somehow specifically address in your paper, okay? And it's okay if you highlight a few too many things, especially early on in the process, but try to keep it just to things that you know you're going to want to specifically reference in your paper, okay? Read all the things you printed. Go through them all. Highlight, highlight, highlight. Then, once you're done, once you get a really good grasp of the subject, okay, once you feel like you're not learning really much new by finding another source, you go to the outline stage. Okay, you open up a Word document. You take the first paper off the top of the pile that you just read, go to the highlighted passages. So find a highlighted passage, say, Chewbacca is the coolest Star Wars character, okay? And you just paraphrase that. You don't have to write it exactly word for word, but paraphrase what that said. Chewbacca is the coolest character. And then put an in-text citation on it, right? And again, I have other videos showing you how to do that. So Chewbacca is the coolest, parentheses, Jennings, comma, 2019. Then, once you've done that in all of them, okay, you put all your highlighted passages together, you can organize them, right? So figure out kind of the basic flow of how you want your paper to go as you're doing this process, and start organizing each entry into the proper kind of sections, right? So maybe you're writing a paper on Star Wars versus Star Trek, right? So then you want to do kind of, if I were going to write that paper, I would organize it with, say, a brief outline of the Star Wars universe, a brief outline of the Star Trek universe, ways Star Wars is better, ways Star Trek is better, conclusion with any final thoughts, right? So if I want to talk about how Chewbacca is the coolest character in Star Wars, that would probably go in that first section describing the Star Wars universe, right? So you don't have to do it perfectly, right? But you can insert each of these kind of ideas or highlighted passages or things you want to talk about in roughly the order you want to talk about them in, right? And once that's all organized and you think it flows properly and you say, okay, I'm going to talk about this with this citation, this citation, this citation, then I'm going to talk about this other subject with this citation and this citation, then a third subject with these 4 citations, right? Once you've got that all kind of in the order you think you want to do, it should look like this. This is from an actual paper that I wrote earlier this year about digital piracy, right? So there's the 3rd section about how digital piracy is committed, and then the 4th section about the demographics of digital pirates. And I have each of the different citations, I kind of have a very brief description of what it is, and then the citation, i.e. where to find it, right? So this is how your outline should look. Then, that's the vast majority of the work. Okay, the actual work in writing a research paper, you're done at this point. Now, you just have to use English to connect the citations, right? Turn it into a paper. Connect one idea to the next to the next. And if you've organized it right, you should know what you're going to say and the order you're going to say it in, right? So just start writing about the first citation. Once you've kind of dealt with that issue or talked about that topic, Go connect it to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. When you're out of citations for that section, you're done with that section. Write a transitive paragraph or sentence or whatever, go on to the next section and link all those citations, right? It's a lot easier than it sounds at this point, right? Once you know what you're going to say, the order you're going to say it in, you have the citations right there, you just write. And it's instead of having to figure out, oh God, what should I say in this paragraph? You just, what's the next citation I want to talk about? What's the next thing? What's the next idea that I've gathered from my research that I want to put in here? Boom, there you go. You're done, right? When you're done writing, you make sure that every single thing you've put in your paper, every in-text citation, goes in the works cited page. And that's very easy. Again, if you watch one of my previous videos on APA style, you'll know that most of the places where you find journal articles just hand you the works cited page entry for that work in lots of different styles, whether it's APA or MLA or whatever. Okay? But we're not done yet. There's one more step. Edit. Okay? You need to make sure everything is perfect. Your citations are perfect. Your spelling is perfect. Your grammar is perfect. Everything perfect. Okay? One of the tricks I've heard is to take your paper, put it into Google Translate, and have Google Translate read it to you. And if it sounds funny, you know you've made a mistake there. Okay? You want to double check after you edit, because you're probably going to be adding stuff, deleting stuff, moving stuff, doing all that stuff. Once you think you have your paper ready to go, you need to make sure that every in-text citation has a matching end-of-text citation and vice versa. You don't want to have an in-text citation that doesn't have an entry in the works cited page, and you also don't want to have anything in your works cited page that doesn't have an in-text citation. So make sure those match up one-to-one, okay? And then finally, find someone who's really, really good at English and writing, better than you. Take your paper to them and bribe them with cookies or, I don't know, soda, whatever they want. Bribe them to sit there and edit your paper in front of you and explain to you exactly what mistakes you made and why it's wrong. Don't just have them do it. Have them explain to you exactly what you did wrong, why it's wrong, and how to fix it. Okay? That's how you learn to be a writer. The person I bribed when I was an undergraduate was Jen. Jen is brilliant. To this day, probably the best writer I know. And she really, she taught me way more than any English teacher I've ever had. Just by sitting down with me, editing my papers, showing me what I did wrong, why it's wrong, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So please do your best. Find that person, befriend them, bribe them, do whatever it takes. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.